All right, everyone. We are here to check out the Bazaar. You probably watched a lot of my gameplay videos. Most of them are Hearthstone and a little bit of Monster Hunter. I've been doing some tutorial videos there. If you're new to Monster Hunter, by the way, I recommend you check out my guides. I got a lot of them. I got even more coming out over the next couple weeks. It's a very complicated, complex game, and I'm going to do my absolute best to make it as easy for you to understand as humanly possible. But today's video is going to be a little bit of gameplay and a little bit of my thoughts on this game, the Bazaar. Kevin's been playing it for a long time. He spent some time last night. A couple of you jumped on the stream. I did delete that stream. It was mostly just to share my screen with Kevin. So shout out to my boy Kev for walking me through the gist of the game. I've played a few matches since then. I've got a pretty decent feel for kind of what the game is about and want to give you guys some honest thoughts and impressions. It is a deck building game of sorts, slightly different than Hearthstone in the sense that you are not necessarily playing against other players in the real time like you would in Hearthstone. Like, you're not competing against other people, you're playing against their ghosts. So everything you're about to see is people who have played in the past, builds in the past. I'm competing against those people. The objective is simple: get to the end of the gauntlet, so to speak. And most likely, earlier on at least, I kind of feel like you're probably not going to do that because this game is horribly imbalanced. And I know Kevin likes it, and I'm sure he's going to watch this with one angry fist in the air. But this game is in a very early beta right now. It was in a closed beta. Now it is in an open beta. I'm still not sure they know what they want to do with this game. Based on some of the build guides I have seen, based on some of the other videos I've watched, namely from Caparian and even talking with Kevin when he plays, it doesn't necessarily flow like as well as I want it to. And I think it's got a lot to do with this is a very complex experience. There are items, there are weapons, there are skills, there are synergies that exist. There are cool combinations, there are broken combinations, and that's true of any deck building game, right? I mean, there are different ways to win. Here you can win defensively, offensively, with poison, with fire, with other types of abilities. But ultimately, there's so many things right now. I think the game creators don't really know the direction they want to go quite yet. And it's very clear to me in some of the builds that I play against, which are perfectly viable builds, by the way. I'm absolutely stomping these guys, which tells me that this game needs a lot of work. So I don't think this will be my daily driver. I'm still very much in love with Hearthstone, which has its own set of problems. But I did want to do some content that's outside of Hearthstone and talk about it and give everybody who is not familiar with this game kind of a beginner's view of kind of what to expect. When you start the game, you're going to select whether you want to have more income right away or an item or a skill. From what I have gathered, a lot of this is totally random. So you might start with 3 different things, and this game is all about choices. So you pick one thing, you're obviously not going to get something else, and I like that. It does add a massive sense of that roguelikeness to it. No 2 runs will ever be the same, even from the very beginning of the game. We're going to go ahead and pick some gold and a little bit of income to get started. And we're going to go into the first set of challenges. Now, you'll notice here that these are different things. Sometimes it's buy a weapon. Sometimes it's, I don't even know what the cute furry monster does, but something. Or sometimes it's just get something. It kind of depends. That's the interesting thing about this game, is there's really no sense of what is going to happen, but there is some structure. You will have a buy phase, you will fight a monster, you'll fight another player, and then the day will reset. So there is some structure to kind of that, but in between that, those paths you take, what your stores will be, what monsters you fight against, what players you play against, totally at random. Okay, so we don't have a weapon yet. We're going to go ahead and buy one. That's probably the best way to get started. And you can see here in our item chest, we have no weapons. We have nothing. So if I went straight into, like, with that little creature, if that creature fought me, I would just basically stand there and get punched in the face. A couple of things to understand about the user interface. Bottom here is my health. I currently have 250 health points. I'm getting $8 a day, and I'm currently holding $20. The items here that are for sale, pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory, but the item on the number on the bottom left, will indicate how much money it costs. So seeing I have $20, I can actually buy all 3 of these items. And then the last thing to understand, it is a lot to take in, I get it. This is the tooltips above the item. Don't worry about the name, it's a beach ball. Like you're actually using it as a beach ball as a weapon. Well, kind of. But you'll see here that it's a medium-sized item and it is classified as both aquatic and toy. Remember earlier on I said this game has a lot of different things it needs to balance. This is what I was referring to. There are aquatic items, there are poison items, there are fire items, there's a lot of stuff. So if I found other aquatic items, this would provide a synergy to those, which would potentially make me more offensive. And as you can see here, actually none of these items are actually weapons. These are not any weapons at all. This is an item that will give other items more ammunition. I'll explain ammo in a moment. This is an item that buffs items near it to increase their critical chance. And this is an item that will haste other toy or aquatic items. No synergies at all here. I'm going to go ahead and pick up the cannonball for now. And I'm going to put it in my inventory. And I'm going to go ahead and re-roll to see if I get something that isn't basically useful. And again, I re-rolled again. It's a lot to take in. Don't really sweat too much about that right now. But here you could see armor. Now this is a little bit different. This armor will provide me with shield. And I think this is a good opportunity to explain that. You'll notice a lot of the items have a time associated with them, like this one here, this powdered flask. It's a 5-second timer. That means every 5 seconds it's going to do something. This is a time-based game. You're fighting against an enemy. It's automatic. You're not clicking skills or anything. But every 5 seconds, this item is going to do something. In this case, it's going to reload the item to the right of it by 1 ammunition. In this case, this item will give me 50 shield every 6 seconds. Which, okay, right? So if an enemy is hitting me as damage per second goes for 50 damage, and it takes him 6 seconds to do that, then this shield will basically protect me from losing any health. If they do more than 50 damage every 6 seconds, well, then I'm going to take a little bit of damage. But because I feel like that might not be a bad thing to do, I'm going to go ahead and pick that up. And now I'm going to leave the shop. I spent some money. I am now leaving the shop. And now I am going to fight against one of 3 enemies. Typically, you have kind of like a really hard enemy, like a medium enemy, and then maybe an enemy that's not so hard. In this case, they all seem to be level 1 enemies, so it really doesn't matter. And combat is going to begin. I have no weapons. I have nothing. Turns out he actually has no weapons either. So we're just staring at each other, doing absolutely nothing, slowly buffing up our shields. Now, this is a viable strategy, believe it or not. What will happen is when time runs out, the game will force a winner by inflicting constant poison damage, essentially, on both players. And you can see that's indicated by that blue line that's going to match in the center of the screen. And as soon as it does, we're going to both begin taking tick damage. Now, you're going to see our health starting to shrink. Now, I had more shield than the other guy did. That's the only reason I won. And a shield build, a purely defensive build, is absolutely a viable strategy in this game. If you want to basically just shield up and try to wait until the end and let the sand/poison damage beat an enemy, you can absolutely do that. I won, and as a result, I earned a silk scarf that I get to keep. And if I want, I could sell it, or I could wear it and have 2 defensive items. As of right now, I am very defensive minded. That may be the way I end up going. And here you can see now it's back to the store. We fought an enemy, now we're going back to the store again. All these encounters are random. I could get a strange mushroom, I could get a poison item, or I could potentially get bronze tier neutral items. Let's go ahead and select the botanical garden. And I finally now have a weapon that actually does some offense here. This is a jellyfish, and as you can see that every 7 seconds it will inflict 3 poison. When you use an adjacent aquatic item, this will gain haste for 1 second. Again, the game's all about synergy. So if I was holding another item next to it that was aquatic and I used it, this would be a little bit faster in combat, which, okay, that's kind of cool. And I'm going to go ahead and select the Lost and Found and pick up a seashell that also more defense. I am very, very defensive geared in this particular run. And as a matter of fact, before we go ahead and proceed, I'm going to go ahead and move some items around since I'm all defensive anyway. I don't think I can hold the third thing. I'm just going to go ahead and pick up shield. That's really all I can do. So we're going to go ahead and just hold a bunch of shield. And now this is the combat part of the phase where we're actually going to fight against another person. Now, again, this isn't real time. This isn't some dude sitting there recording just as I'm recording. This is a guy that has played earlier at some point today or the other day, and this is how far they got. This was their character loadout at that exact time. I will now compete against that ghost exact same way I fought against the monster, and we will see who wins. I'm going to guess I'm going to lose only because, again, I don't have any weapons, but this is a level 1 encounter. We're both apprentices. We're just starting off in our run, day 1. So we'll see what kind of weapons or what kind of damage they do. Again, I can't do anything. I'm going to basically have to sit here and wait for the shrine to kick in through the poison damage, and it looks like this guy sucks. He's not doing anything. I'm building shield. You can see I have more health than he does, and I am building shield at a much bigger rate than him. He's not including any at all. So when this poison damage comes, believe it or not, I'm actually going to win this combat encounter by doing absolutely nothing and just turtling up, and I'm going to survive the sand damage longer than he will, and that is going to result in me getting a victory. And there you can see we won. As a result, we're going to get a little victory banner here. Ta-da! We get a victory towards our meter. If you basically get 10 victories, you win, or you lose a bunch and your run's over. So I did get my first victory, and there's no loot or anything to collect, and we're just going to go ahead and hit continue. And the run will now go to the second day, and the process will repeat again and again and again until I level up enough or I die ultimately, and I lose all my prestige, which basically means, you know, I've lost all my fights, I'm done, and my run ends. Let's go ahead and select the tiny furry monster. I don't even know what that does. Here, these are basically skills that you can unlock. And I could get a silver item, or I can get 25 extra health, which in my particular build, basically being a turtle, extra 25 health will keep me alive that much longer. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and you can see it just increased my health. And because I've done so many things, I guess the last little thing I need to explain to you guys, and then we can just play a round or two. I did level up. Because I leveled up, it leveled up because I survived that encounter against the enemy. I leveled up after I survived that encounter against that other player. And as I've just kind of progressed through doing things, I get a level. And as I get a level, I can now basically get my perk for the level, and I can choose, again, one of these skills that are totally at random. This one would give me more economy. This one would give me more poison, which would be nice to synergize with my jellyfish, which also has poison. Or I could do a thing that gives my weapons 10 damage. Well, right now I don't have any weapons that do damage, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up the final dose skill here. Now it goes into it's part of my character. And just so I don't forget, I can go ahead and drop the jellyfish in. And you see when I do that, the poison went from 3 to 6 because it synergizes. And if I mouse over that, you can see it's highlighting that box next to the jellyfish to indicate, hey, you are now basically using this skill to your advantage. If I went ahead and, well, it's my rightmost poison item. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be in the rightmost part of my board. It's always my rightmost item, but that's fine. Let's go ahead and see what other things we can buy here. Here's a fishing rod, which doesn't do much for me. This would haste an existing aquatic item, which I don't have any. The beach ball we have seen again, and the chum, which doesn't help me because my aquatic items gain crit chance. Don't have any of those, so I'm going to reroll one more time and see if anything else pops up. Now, similar to Hearthstone, you can get duplicates and triplicates and just basically level up. So you could see that there is these up arrows here indicating that the coral armor, which I already bought, will basically increase my shield. So I'm going to go ahead and buy that and re-equip that. I now have a little bit more shield to play with, which is nice. And that's all I'm going to do here. I'm not going to buy the ray, and I'm not going to buy the lighter. Although I do have a weapon slot. I guess I could go ahead and buy a lighter here. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and put the seashell into play. That's even more shield. Again, really sticking to that shield build. Notice the synergy here. The shield gives you 10 for each aquatic item you have in play. Notice that the coral armor is considered an aquatic item. And this is actually considered an aquatic item. So I should have gotten a little bit extra shield. I believe I got 20 more shield because of these two items. So still have a lot of shield, and now I have just a smidge of damage that I'm actually doing offensively. And now that we're kitted out, we are going to go engage in an enemy. And here you can see this rogue scrapper is harder. I will get more money and more rewards, but it's also a little bit higher level as opposed to this one, which is kind of in the middle, and this one, which is even less. We'll go ahead and pick the middle guy for now. I don't feel like this build is that powerful. This guy has a lot of weapons. Pretty good chance I'm going to lose this combat. I'm not really hitting him much with anything. You'll see as my weapons proc, I begin to attack him, and he begins to attack me back. You could see the various counters that are going off. As the weapons are cooling off, we're engaging, he's engaging, hitting back. I have shields that I'm building up. He has shields he's building up. I'm losing health. He's losing health, and eventually the only way I'm going to potentially win this combat is I'm going to have to wait for the sand to come through, and I'm going to hopefully have more health than he does, which will allow me to win. And shockingly, I actually won. I didn't think I was going to win that, to be honest with you, but I did win, and I have successfully defeated him. I get a little bit of loot, which goes in my inventory pouch here, and we move on to the next instance. Here I can just get gold, do an abandoned ruins, or I could sell items, which if I sell items, if I sell my items to them, I'll get a little bit extra value. Let's go ahead and look at the items and see if there's anything else that's worth picking up. Fishing rod yet again. This time it has a rifle. Notice the rifle has ammunition with it. That's slightly different. Remember that cannonball synergy I had, that adjacent items will have additional ammunition. If I decided to use the rifle and I put the cannonball next to it, instead of it doing just one single shot, one time, and then running out of ammo, I actually get to shoot it twice. However, it will reload ammo if it is your only weapon with a cooldown. Again, another layer of complexity. If this is the only weapon I am using, it will continue to shoot and shoot and shoot and reload, which is nice. Here, this is an absolute just regular weapon. It doesn't have ammo associated with it. In this case, it will do 10 damage every 6 seconds, and this is a multicast. And if you're ever curious about the tooltips, the multicast will happen twice, so it's actually going to do 20 damage. Not a bad weapon to pick up. I could replace the seashell and the jellyfish and start pivoting my build away from purely defensive to offensive with a cutlass, or I could start using a rifle as my sole weapon to give myself a little bit more damage. Again, the problem with the rifle, though, is you're kind of handcuffed because you can't use any other weapon with it. Here, if I decided to use the cutlass, there's no penalty because I'll just keep using it as where the rifle will run out of ammo. And unless it's my only weapon, I won't get another one. So have some choices to make here. That's the fun part of this game. Kind of wrapping up my thoughts on the game. We'll do one more level and then I'll stop because these runs do take a while. The problem with this game is that there are so many different trajectories and paths. And I know that sounds cool. It is. I mean, look at all these different things. I went from a shield build to a poison build to a one attack build to a potentially critical damage build, doing more damage with heavy weapons. I don't feel like this is very balanced. The enemies I've fought so far have been increasingly very basic. I mean, the one guy I fought didn't even have the same amount of health that I did, which doesn't really make sense. Didn't really do anything back. It's hard to gate this game whether or not you're a good player. Yes, I won. You could argue, hey, look, this guy, he's talking through everything. He's looking at each of the items that are available to him. He's making logical decisions on some of the abilities and builds that may be available for him to play. The problem is, though, because the game is so unbalanced right now, I could get one-shotted in my next turn, and I don't really feel like there's a good feedback loop to me as a player as to whether I'm playing well or not, other than just by playing more. And I think that's where this game is really struggling right now. I talked a lot with Kevin about it during the beta, and how many times he said, man, I am so frustrated with this game. They absolutely, completely nerfed a strategy that I was going for no reason. This is a dead card. This is a wasted weapon. This doesn't do anything. And then the next day he's like, oh, wow, this is like the best weapon in the game. So I'm sure it's hard to compare this to a game like Hearthstone, which has been around for a very long time. Which has a lot more balancing to it. And Hearthstone doesn't always get it right either. Like Jim Raynor is broken as hell right now. That's not to say that they won't fix it. And that's not to say the Bazaar guys won't fix this game either, because I think they will. But I'm just saying that right now it's difficult to get too wrapped up in anything because it's just so random what you're going to end up getting. We're going to go ahead and keep going here. Let's go ahead and see what JJ has to sell. Here we have a poison item, a double barrel shotgun, which again has ammunition, and a cannon, which does a pretty heavy amount of damage with burn damage, but it'll only shoot twice and then it's completely out. Cannon would be nice to put next to a cannonball, which would give it one more ammunition. That would give it 3 shots and then it's done. It can't do anything else. It's going to shoot 3 times and then basically just sit there. Now, it does have burn damage, which will tick slowly as well. But keep in mind, this is kind of like an all-in attack. This is like you're trying to kill an enemy very, very rapidly. Doesn't really align with my current build of a lot of shields. The catfish isn't bad, only because I do have another poison item, so I could potentially pivot to poison. I'll go ahead and buy it, but I don't plan on playing it right now. And we'll go ahead and jump over into our next combat phase. Again, another human that has played in the past. We're going to go ahead and play against them, and we're going to match our builds against each other, and we're going to see who is the superior dancer. Again, very odd. I don't know why they have such a low amount of HP, but it's weird. It's like the game's almost injecting these random players. Like, I don't really think this was another player. I think this was probably just a character who they created just to kind of like move the game along. I don't know why somebody would have that low amount of health, but again, we're kind of sticking to the same strategy. We are ticking with a little bit of poison damage, which is nice. A lot of shield to defend, hoping we get to the sand and win, but our poison actually took them out beforehand, which is good. Get another victory, get a little bit more experience, move on, so on and so forth. And that's basically the Bazaar in a nutshell. I feel like I've kind of said what I needed to say here. Yeah, 25 minutes seems like about right. So there you have it. Just some thoughts on the game. I play around here or there, but I feel like it's not my daily driver. But who knows? Maybe it'll grow on me a little bit more, and I'll become insanely addicted to it. Maybe the people who enjoy my Hearthstone streams will enjoy having a different deck builder out there. There is no deck tracker for this. There are so many cards and different levels of cards and different layers of cards, rarities. There's a comeback mechanic, which gives you platinum level items, which are even better than anything else to try to like really help you radically change your build around. So there's a lot of different things in here. I couldn't show you all of them. And honestly, the people who've been playing a long time are probably themselves still surprised by some of the things that come along in the game. But it is something different to kind of throw in the rotation. And I thought it would be fun to spend a little bit of time walking you through the adventure. So that'll wrap up today's video, all about the Bazaar. If you found it interesting and informative, you know what to do. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side. Bye-bye.